What's going on, everyone? I'm just a simple, typical American guy here to learn and react to 25 funny differences between Canadians and Americans. Now, Canada kind of fills this interesting thought process and, I don't know, this interesting area in American culture and minds. Americans, when they think of Canada, think of very polite people, like that some of the pronunciation, I can't even enunciate and pronounce saying the word pronunciation, but the way that Canadians say things is different than the way Americans say things. The accent is so similar, and then there's just this tiny little differences, and some of the slang is different, and it's funny what comes to Americans' mind when they think of Canada. It's just like the stupidest little things, when in reality, it feels like Americans know next to nothing about Canada, at least me, for instance. But I think this video of 25 funny differences between Canadians and Americans not only will be entertaining, but enlighten me on a bit of Canadian culture that I've been not made aware of, and that will, entertain us at the very least. So let's check it out.
The US have somewhat of a love-hate relationship. It's a sibling rivalry.
What did he say? Love-hate? Canada and US? Is it a love-hate relationship? I don't think so. I think Americans pretty much love Canadians for the most part. Just Canadians in general. We just think they're super nice.
Canada and the US have somewhat of a love-hate relationship. It's
Okay.
a sibling rivalry that goes back centuries. So, what exactly are the differences between the two?
Yeah.
Today, we're going to take a look at how the longest unprotected border in the world has defined North America. I'm Mike with List 24.
The longest unprotected border. I never even thought about that. But the fact that it's unprotected is probably a good sign, right? Means that there's a cordial agreement there between the US and Canada. When I think of the US-Canadian border, I definitely just think of it'd be no big deal, no problem for a Canadian to come to America, American to travel to Canada. It's all good.
And these are 25 funny differences between Canadians and Americans.
Okay. Okay, we got an intro. I can respect the intro.
25. Canadians tend to trust authority, whereas Americans are suspicious of it. This goes back.
Absolutely true. Absolutely. It's just an American thing. Americans are very obsessed with their freedom. Freedom. So they don't like authority. So they question it. It does not bring them comfort, but rather suspicion. It's just an American thing. I don't know.
Back to the fact that the Canadians remained loyal to the crown, while America showed King George the door.
Is that what it stems back to? That's a bit of a generalization. It could be true. I don't know, because any deep-seated mistrust of government I personally have, I just like to keep as a healthy mistrust. Just, questioning, make sure everything's cool, everything makes sense, that kind of questioning. Not like wanting to kick him out or something. Hold on, what did he say?
Canadians remained loyal to the crown, while America showed King George the door.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's all based on some historical event like that, but who knows? What do I know?
24. Canadians bond over hockey. Americans bond over football.
Yes.
In general, Canadians also put less emphasis on sports.
Oh my gosh, Americans love sports. My God. Sports is... I'd go as far as to say one of the number one most important pastimes, industries, at this point. There are a few things that Americans care more about. They care about their sports. They want their sport. Give us the sports. Obviously, it differs on an individual basis, and we appreciate a bit of hockey, but nothing compared to football, so that's definitely correct.
23. Canadians spend a lot of time comparing themselves to the US. Americans don't think about Canada very often at all. Actually, Almost never.
That's kind of a mean way to put it. That's kind of cruel. That's mean. We think about Canada, but I don't know if he is correct that Canadians think about America. Could be true, could be not true. I don't know. But Americans just don't think about any other nation other than themselves. Very, very, what's the word? Not greedy. Why am I thinking greedy? Selfish. Very selfish. Now, it's probably a culture thing. We think about all the things, the wonders and the horrors going on in America, and not really much else in the world unless it's real crazy. So nothing against Canada in particular.
I love you, Ken. And all my Canadian friends. This is in jest, dear God.
Oh yeah, okay.
22. Some parts of Canada sell milk in bags. Bagged milk would be highly suspicious in the US. I'd totally drink it.
Bagged milk. Why? What's the purpose? What is this bagged milk? Why are we doing this? We have it in cartons made of cardboard. I suppose there's no reason that makes perfect sense. The liquid would get soaked up inside of all the cardboard if there wasn't weird linings and preservatives involved or something. I can't even. I'm gonna dive down this rabbit hole far too deeply if if given the opportunity. Bagged milk, I would drink it. I would also be entertained by it because it is strange.
Milk's great. Best beverage. Oh, no, absolutely.
No, milk is fantastic.
Milk is the best
Milk
beverage.
is good.
Yes, it is.
Milk
And
is
it comes
good.
with chocolate.
Yeah. I actually don't like chocolate as much.
That's weird.
I prefer white. I can do it. I prefer.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know we were gonna get these little tidbits. They left the camera rolling on some of these. Okay. I mean, I like chocolate milk too.
Oh. 21. The US sees itself as a melting pot. That was a good restaurant. While Canada sees itself as a mosaic. The difference is very slight, but basically in the US, there's more mixing and blending between immigrant cultures.
Yeah.
While in Canada, immigrants tend to keep more of their language and traditions rather than mix with others.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, we use that term, melting pot. He's correct. That's what we like to say. And certainly different people of different backgrounds certainly feel free to commingle and coexist and intertwine and become married, make families. But you would also get what he's saying about Canada, where you'd also get people from all sorts of places coming and sticking to their traditions and their culture and way of life and being very proud of that and wanting to keep that intact. So I would say that's true in America as well.
20. Canadians have more of a tall poppy syndrome, which is a tendency to distrust or discredit anyone who stands out in a prominent position or wealth. In this sense,
Really? I like that. Because I'm all about the mistrust, the questioning. So to hear that Canadians, what did he, tall poppy is what he said? Questioning people who stick out when they're in positions of authority, or that's interesting. Makes sense.
to distrust or discredit anyone who stands out in a prominent position or wealth. In this sense, Canada is a lot more like Europe. Conformity is more encouraged in Canada than in the US. If America does well at anything, it's encouraging innovation and non-conformity.
Yeah, seriously. It is definitely an American trend. And more than a trend, it's just a way of life. Sticking out, being an individual, not conforming, is very edgy and very cool. I mean, like anything, it's in moderation, right? If you're trying to stick out just for the sake of sticking out, it's kind of dumb. It's not very cool. But if you're just an individual doing your own thing, whatever that is, being unique, then people respect that and applaud it, which I agree with.
19. Canadians love their flag, but Americans seem to love their flag more. Seriously, nobody beats America at flags.
Although we do love the Canadian flag. And maybe for like stupid reasons, because most Americans just like that it's a maple leaf, and they're like, oh, that's cool, that's different, so we like it. Kind of a dumb reason, very surface level, but they do love our flag as well. Although the American flag's kind of in a weird spot where it's becoming associated with like overly nationalistic temperament. So there is a trend, I think, in modern America where, with certain points of view, certain political points of view, the American flag they're not as gung ho to be like, here, holding the flag and be like, this represents me 100%. That has gone down a little, I would say. If you were going to chart it, it has gone down a bit.
You can't beat Canadians at maple syrup, though.
18.
Okay.
Canadians put more emphasis on higher education. Actually, Canada puts more emphasis on it than any other country in the world.
Oh, that's cool. Any other country in the world, that's something to hang your hat on, to be proud of. Promoting higher education, higher learning. That's great.
It leads the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, with 53% of the population having a college education.
Whoa. I think that is way higher than in America. I'd be scared to know the percentage. Over half of Canadians are college educated. That's amazing. That's great.
The OECD average is 32%.
17.
Canadians generally approve of their government. Americans hate and distrust theirs. This boils down to the fact that the Canadians see government as a good thing, while
What a way to phrase it. Like all Americans just hate their governments. Certainly is true for some, and certainly not true for others. So that's a little bit of a harsh statement, but perhaps his point is, compared to Canada, there's a lot more Americans in that point of view. So I think that's what he's getting at.
Americans see it as a necessary evil.
So Canadians see it as what?
Government as a good thing, while Americans
A good thing. Yeah, and I think that's fine. That's cool. Yeah. Government can do a lot of good for your nation, for humanity, especially when it properly can represent the will of the people and what's best for the people, and putting our best minds, hopefully, together for the greater good of humanity, Canada. Yeah, I think that's great.
see it as a necessary evil.
16.
Americans are more individualistic. This goes back to the Wild West mentality. The very word Canada, on the other hand, is derived from a local Iroquoian word for village. Canadians are more communally minded.
Okay.
15.
Canada's
Interesting.
right wing is America's left wing. In the political sense, Canadian politics tend to be more liberal. This doesn't mean that Canada doesn't have conservative politics. It certainly does. The political system is a lot less polarized, however, and doesn't pull to the extremes as much. It has 5 primary political parties.
I think that's very healthy, honestly. If you're going to have a cohesive nation, while you may not agree with this is all in theory, hypothetically, if you didn't agree with X nation's politics, you have to agree that having a nation with like a cohesive mutual agreement on their political point of views, where there's no extreme parties on either end, always never being able to agree on things, hating each other, that just sucks and that's bad. And kind of what America is like at this point in time anyway. But so I'm really jealous of a nation who has settled upon a political system where it is working, everyone is happy, it's doing good things, and the political temperature is mellow, where you don't have such extremes and people, disagree on things, have different viewpoints, but everyone's much closer in their points of view on how things should work. That just makes it a more efficient way for a nation to run and exist. I am not commenting on what that political stance should be at all. I'm just saying, in this hypothetical, if you I'm trying not to get in trouble here, you would want like a nation that's operating at 100% would have like a lot of points of view of the people, and the politicians would be pretty close together, so everyone can get things done that everyone wants. Yeah, something like that.
14.
Both Americans and Canadians think they're more free. In Canada, this is due to more progressive policies. In the US, it's due to lack of government policies.
Very true. Americans associate freedom with lack of policy, where there is no law. There is no policy there, and I'm merely free to do whatever it is I choose to do. And we kind of have just a social understanding that most people will do what is good for society, and obviously that can backfire when you don't have a lot of laws and procedures and things limiting what people have access to, and blah, blah, all that. But yeah, what he is saying is certainly true.
13.
Americans are more confrontational. Not necessarily in a bad way, but Canadians are more likely to just hold everything in and let it stew. Or apologize.
I mean, then I'm probably more like a Canadian in that sense, if this is true. I don't know if that's a stereotype or not, but I haven't interacted with people from other countries and nations to really know if this is true or not. But I have definitely heard Americans are aggressive, argumentative, willing, if not that, they're willing to speak their mind because we've been raised and told growing up to speak our mind, to have opinions on stuff. That's the American culture. So that's why we do it. That's why it is that way. It's just our way of life at this point. We don't know any other way. No polite holding it in poshness for us, right? Things would be a lot easier if that were the way. We could all use a little more Canadian in us, I do believe.
12.
Canadians pretend Canada has no problems. America pretends the US just has quirks.
11.
Okay.
Canadians don't get to experience the joys of Pandora and Spotify due to licensing restrictions.
What? What? Really? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's really there must be other ways to listen for Canadians to listen to their favorite music, favorite songs. I hope there is. My God. Spotify is a godsend. It's the best thing ever. I can play any song I've ever wanted to play at any moment on my phone. Yeah, couldn't live without it. Oh my goodness. That's more shocking than anything I've heard on this list so far. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to recover from this.
10.
Although Canadians do feel quite a bit of connection with their province/city, Americans identify much more with their state than they do with the country as a whole, except
yes.
for Quebec, Canada's Texas.
Yeah, Americans are very, very proud of where they were born and raised, unless for some reason there's some kind of American stereotype against that particular state, like that Texas is full of cowboys or something. But but hey, that doesn't even matter. The Texans are very, very proud to be Texans. Doesn't stop them. But yeah, Americans are by and far very proud of the state and city where they grew up.
9.
Canadians talk about the War of 1812 a lot. Americans aren't quite sure what that is. Boston Tea Party, anyone?
I know. Yeah, this is in one of my other videos. When I was learning about the history of Canada, I was shocked to learn about the War of 1812. My goodness. That is sad that Americans are not more aware of this. And I am personally sorry if Canadians are taught about this, learn about this, and here in America we don't care at all. That deserves an apology. That ain't right. That is weird because it was a American-Canadian conflict, right? That's very significant. Very, very significant. I think, again, it's nothing against Canada. It's just that American education isn't very good at teaching the history of anything to do with foreign conflict or foreign nations, policies, government. It's just not good at that. We certainly learned about America and the British Empire as far as that's concerned with our fighting for independence and all that jazz. But aside from that, we really don't learn much at all about important things like the War of 1812.
8.
Canadians are more passive-aggressive. A good example of this would be tribalism and all of its derivatives. While it's more overt in the US, That doesn't mean it's any less in Canada. It just comes out in a more backhanded fashion.
Passive aggressive. Oh, I like that. I mean, that's a byproduct of not trying to be directly confrontational, directly aggressive towards someone and start a fight. Instead, you're just kind of passive aggressive, like, oh, yeah, go ahead. Take my last pretzel. I didn't want that anyway. Something like that.
7,
Canadians brag about how cold it is, while Americans brag about how warm it is. Unless you live in Minnesota, then
What?
you're basically Canadian.
6,
Why would you want it to be cold? I think if given the given the choice to die by heat or die by cold, Americans would majority want to die by heat. Leave me out of the cold, no freezing to death for me. Thank you very much. Give me 12 blankets when it just gets even close to wintertime. My goodness.
6,
Americans are much more polarized on almost everything.
Yeah.
But then again, there are more people in just California than all of Canada, so it makes sense that Canadians
I didn't know that. I've never looked up like the Canadian population. Man, that does make sense with all the polarization. There's also, we're a melting pot, as we've said before, as we love to say. A lot of different points of view, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different people. And they are happy to give their points of view and fight over it. So, yeah, that's certainly true of America.
would be more unified.
5,
I like
In
that.
the US, talking about American politics is taboo. But in Canada, talking about American politics is a national pastime.
Yeah, it's pretty entertaining, isn't it? Almost sadly so entertaining. More like a reality TV show at times. Oh my goodness. Don't get me started. But no, that's actually changing a bit in America. When was this video made? 2017. Yeah, that makes sense. This is 5 years old. That is not true anymore. Americans are getting more and more comfortable with talking about politics openly, and I say that sounding a bit disheartened because it only seems to cause conflict and disagreements, wanting to just talk about politics in the open like that. It very rarely is constructive. And even when you're with your friends and those of like mind who agree with you, that can just lead to an echo chamber where you're all agreeing on how great you are, how great your point of view is all day, and how dumb the other guys are. And that's not good to get stuck in that frame of mind either. So,
4,
I don't know.
Canadians are more likely to take off their shoes in the house. Of course, this depends on location, but in
I
many
do
parts of
this.
the US, walking with shoes in the house is acceptable. Maybe it's the cowboy influence.
This always kind of annoyed me because I was taught to take my shoes off indoors. Take them off. You're gonna get everything dirty. That's an insult to whoever owns the place. And if it's your place, why do you wanna get it all dirty? Take your shoes off.
3,
Come on.
Canadians think Canada is completely different from the US. Americans, on the other hand, don't notice much of a difference between the two countries. As
Absolutely.
a note, from a European perspective, any differences will seem a bit overstated.
Yeah, I would be hard for me to come up with any serious difference that I know of between America and Canada. A lot of people move from Canada to America, America to Canada. That'd be fascinating though, because then you'd get the real experience, right? You'd really know what the differences are. I'd actually be very interested to see a video or something of someone's experience changing countries like that. But no, Americans certainly view Canada as very, very similar to America in most all ways. Yeah, except we always tend to think of maple syrup, how you say sorry instead of sorry. And I always just think of how much I love Degrassi. So that's my guilty pleasure.
2,
Americans have it easier when it comes to shopping online. In Canada, many stores don't offer online shopping. And many of them don't even
Oh.
have a website to begin with.
Oh no, this is blasphemy. This is shocking. This might be the new most shocking thing. Online shopping is a way of life in America. Online shopping is the new in-person shopping. It has replaced it. Everyone online shops. If you're a company in America, a retailer, and you don't have a website, that would be crazy. Now, this video is 5 years old, so maybe this has changed in modern Canada, if that's a way of saying it. Maybe Canada has moved more towards a digital age. Because, I mean, as a company, you're just going to get a lot more sales. I mean, it's just profit-driven, capitalism and all that. Making that money. You want to sell your stuff online because you can reach the entire world in the click of a button. So it's that's how most American companies would view it. Just too much of an opportunity cost to not do it. You got to be online, and Americans love it. We're addicted to online shopping.
1,
Canada has 2 official languages on a national level, English and French. Americans have no official language on a national level. Each state
Yeah.
decides whether or not to adopt English as an official language.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Americans are pretty well aware that French is spoken in Canada. I have no idea to what extent it is spoken. He's saying that it's actually technically a national language, which would probably suggest it's very, very, very commonly spoken, which I wasn't quite aware of. Certainly the English part, naturally, but yeah, I would have thought English would be the national language of America, technically, but a lot of things are chosen on a state-by-state level, so just on a technicality, I guess it's not.
Tristan, we should go to Canada one day.
I'd love to.
Let's do it. You want to go now?
Wow, that was a good video. That was a good video. Hold on. List 25 with your 2.5 million subscribers. Wow. I give you a like because that was a nice video. All 25 of those things were super interesting. There were a few things there that were genuinely shocking. But also many, many things that kind of reinforce that thought that Canada and the United States are quite similar. Even after seeing this, I still believe that. It's just like some cultural differences, which you're going to find when you compare any nations in the world. But this was fascinating. I really did enjoy this video. It gave me a much more detailed, much more intimate, if you will, look into Canadian culture, like what the average Canadian person actually thinks about and, like, you know, all that jazz. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this reaction, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more content like this, me reacting to Canadian themes and culture and ideas, landmarks, all that, feel free to subscribe to the channel for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.